What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the 580 Show, episode 209. Getting this out a little late, but I'm joined by special guest Cosme Gonzales. What's up, man?
How's it going?
Yeah, so I think you've commented on the pod a bunch of times and stuff like that, but we just brought you on. I wanted to do a recap of OSG weekend because we're filming this at literally 8 p.m. on
Mhm.
OSG finals day, and you're very passionate about strongman. I know you're watching, pretty intently like I was. So OSG weekend's over. I wanted to bring you on, have someone to talk with it about, so it's not just me kind of rambling on and on, bounce some thoughts off someone. So my kind of thought here. So I do apologize to Masters. And we will talk a little bit about teens because you kind of had a really cool moment with teens this weekend and the youth class that they did. But I do apologize to Masters specifically because we are going to just touch on open women and open men. So like the 64, 73, 82, and then open, and then the 80, 90, 105s and open men. So, um, but they did start off with the day, weigh-in day was weigh-ins for all the open athletes and masters, and then they had the teen and youth divisions. And Kai, who I believe is one of your clients, won.
Yeah,
So congratulations. I've actually
appreciate
talked to
that.
him on Instagram a couple times, I think, and
Mm.
I know you've talked about him. And man, he's because I think he won America's Strongest Teen last year or the year
Yep.
before. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
he
It
won
all
it 2023. Yeah.
2023, yeah. So, what was that like, man? Like, what was his experience? And I mean, congratulations as a coach. That's really cool.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, man. Honestly, I'm still really surprised that I got him to win nationals his first year of training strongman. Because like when he won America's Strongest Teen, he was only 1 year in. He'd been lifting for like 5 years, but he'd only
Yeah,
been competing in strongman for a year. So for him to get this far to like pretty much a 300-pound log in like 2.5 years of training, that's insane.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's more of him being, a phenomenal athlete, listening to what I have to say and following his program and not really overshooting as much as most teenagers do.
That's so true. Like,
Yeah.
good for him, man, because that is so that like in the world of ego lifting, like TikTok lifting, all this stuff, like for him to like stick to a program, be disciplined to like do something like OSG and then win, that's really cool. So, you know, I I think it's cool they're adding the youth stuff. Obviously, I think it can grow the sport more and more. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, and after seeing OSG today, I mean, it's evident that your age doesn't matter too much to being an awesome athlete, from
Isn't
like
that
Chris
crazy?
Tyler at like
Yeah.
52 years old. I think what the first athlete to ever do two podium finishes in the same weekend
Yep.
at the
And
world level, that's insane.
yeah, and there was multiple people that did that this weekend.
Mhm.
And uh yeah, so I mean, yeah, shout out to your client. That's really cool. So congrats to Kai and all the teams, that did it. I think that was really cool.
Yeah, I
Um
wish they would have announced that a few of them already won certain like national levels. Like
yeah.
Cole Bolton won America's Strongest Teen this year. And then obviously Bubba Pritchett won this year as well for America. So like I wish they would have mentioned that because it's not just like some random local competition. It was a
Right.
very high level competition.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So, yeah, so going into day one, we obviously had the monster log
Mhm.
challenge and the car walk. So that was day one. So what I kind of want to do is go through like if you like we started the 64 women.
Yeah,
Uh
let me pull up some
yeah,
notes.
yeah, for sure. And just some things that stuck out to me. So Camellia, I think that's how I say her name, Camellia. But she was one of the athletes that did two open classes. So she did the 64 and the 73s. And she ended up podium in the 64 and 73. Or no, I'm sorry. I believe she missed out on the 73 by a half a point.
Yeah, she was
Uh
really close.
in the 73, yeah. So she got I mean, how insane is that? Like so I believe she had the fastest
She had the fastest yoke
yeah.
on 64s. Yeah.
Yeah. So can you imagine doing 14 events that weekend? I mean, it's just insane to make the finals and be top four in both. I mean, congratulations to her. That's
This is nice, Beth.
insane. Yeah, no shit. But like she's incredible. I think I've actually spoke with her a couple times like on DMs
Mhm.
and stuff, but well, I guess I don't want to get too ahead of myself. If I start to get ahead of myself, let me know because I want to
Oh,
stay
go
on the
ahead.
I want to stay on the log and the car walk. So um Crystal came out and pretty much from the get-go in the 64s,
Hmm.
Crystal Stanzik. So I know her. She's actually was a PA lifter. I met her pretty
Nice.
early on in my strongman career. So my first nationals was, I believe, maybe Crystal's first nationals. If not, I apologize. But she's actually coming to our gym and training the wheelbarrow that was at that 2021 nationals. So I knew Crystal pretty well. I know her
Mhm.
boyfriend CJ very well as well. So uh, she came out, got 5 reps on the log. There was a couple of girls that did 4, but Crystal won that first event in that class. And then, like we mentioned, event 2, Camellia came out and won the yoke. So obviously 5 reps on a 180 log for a 64 kilo woman, and then we're talking what 15 and a half seconds was the car walk official time for Camellia. So I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
she is just a unit. Like
Yeah,
to be able to do all those things and then to do the wrecking ball hold twice and finish.
incredible.
She was one of the first people to finish 6 stones too, right? She got it in 39.83 seconds.
Yeah,
Like,
and I
that's
believe she has
insane.
the Australian stone record um
Mhm.
for maybe multiple classes. I mean, I obviously don't keep up uh with Australian records too much, but
Mhm.
yeah, it was pretty impressive. I do think I I think that's the most competitive women's class, to be honest, just when I'm watching.
It's
Um
growing a lot for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, you think about it like that's a pretty average size. You know, we got to think about the normal world and then strongman world. So it's like 140 is the lightest class at OSG, but like
Mhm.
it's a pretty normal size athlete, you know? So I think it makes it pretty marketable to newer people coming in, right?
Yeah, I also think a lot of it just has to do with like the different shapes and sizes you see in women's in general.
For
Like
sure.
like women's 140 looks so different on everybody. Like there's some girls that are like 5'6", they haven't really filled out the frame yet, and you have some girls that are like 5'1", 5'2".
Yeah, dude, you
So
took it right out of my mouth because I was gonna say, like you look at Camellia, I'm pretty sure she's pretty tall,
she's
like
tall.
five
Yeah.
six, and then like Crystal's real short. I think she's like barely over 5 foot, and then I
Mhm.
think Diana from Mexico, I believe when I was watching, I think she was under 5 foot. So
Yeah,
like
she was one of the shorter athletes for sure. I think she was right at 5 foot the last
yeah,
time I was
so
looking at
yeah, so I just like that class, I feel like
her.
on the women's side had the best spread from 1 to 10. You know what I mean? There wasn't like
Yeah.
that. I mean, point wise, obviously there is going to be a little bit of a fall off total at the end,
Mhm.
but I think like when you look at that class, I mean, just look at the podium. 49 and a half won it for Crystal, then 49 and then 48. Like, I mean, you're talking as close as it gets pretty much for a podium. So, and we saw
Yeah,
that a
half
lot
a
today.
point to a point. I mean,
Yeah.
within the podium for sure. It looks like after the podium though, there's almost like a 7.5 point difference after that.
Yeah. So, um, actually, let's just go through each class total, and then like like let's just talk all 7 events for the class.
Okay.
Um, and we are pretty much gonna be talking about mostly finals athletes. Was there anyone? I'll have to pull up my other spreadsheet, but was there anyone I can't remember in the 64 women that didn't make the finals that I thought would? There wasn't anyone that immediately jumped out at me.
I'd say everyone who made the final, that was like pretty evident. I think
Yeah,
going further down the line, I think with the 90 kilo men, that was a bit of an upset.
that was yeah. We're gonna talk about that. I think that was the biggest. That class is crazy, man. That
Mhm.
class is crazy. No,
It's
but
just crazy because everyone's good now. That's like the other thing about it too. I don't think anyone who was in there was like zeroing pretty much every first like day one event.
yeah, yeah, and like you look, I mean, you look at the 64s, you look deep, like. we didn't even mention Holly McRae had like some crazy events.
Mhm.
But like even some girls that missed the finals are like big names, like
Yeah,
Nadia Morrison. So yeah, just a stacked class. But day two was the axle deadlift and the sandbag medley. And um the axle deadlift, Camellia got 8 reps with second place. Diana got 9, which is incredible.
that's insane to do
Like,
9 reps that fast.
well, you think about it, you start really, really, really looking at it, and you have
440 pounds.
140 pounds deadlifting 440 on an axle, not
Mhm.
even a normal deadlift bar, for 9 reps, 8 reps, 7 reps, 6 reps. Like,
Yeah,
yeah. So I
that's
mean,
well over
again,
double body weight. That's insane.
yeah. And that's one thing, like, so Crystal obviously won this class. That's one thing. If you look at the spreadsheet, she was so consistent the whole weekend. Won, won the log, uh, freaking, right up there in the yoke, right behind Camellia. I think she got second in that event. And then it's just the whole day, 6 reps on the deadlift, sandbag medley, 35 seconds, like right there in the mix. So
Yeah, and I
that was,
think if anyone did have a bad event, it was probably just on the car yoke, mostly just because of like it seemed like a height issue. Like they didn't
oh
put in
yeah,
their yoke height right.
yeah.
And that's just like a consistent issue that I think happened in the women's classes just because of all the height differences.
Yeah, it seemed like there was a decent amount of people that did struggle with that this weekend.
Mhm.
Um, I wonder, I mean, you and I have never got to do the infamous karaoke at OSG, but I do wonder.
Someday, hopefully.
Yeah, I would love to talk to someone about it. And I've talked to a couple athletes about how it's different, but I wonder just as far as setting your yoke height, like those tires come to such an abrupt stop. You see
Mhm.
some guys and girls get whipped with
You
that
can hear the brakes,
every
like
the
how
whole
loud
day.
it was.
Yeah, the whole day. Um, I think another person we didn't mention yet, um, what that to me stood out, and obviously I follow my class a little bit more, admittedly,
Meg
in like the
Lotta.
90s. Meg Lotta was insane.
Mhm.
She missed winning by what, a half a point, I said.
Yep.
Uh, and
49 points. She was like right there, and she
yeah,
finished that stone run pretty quick. She was just barely behind her.
yeah, it was insane. 45 seconds. Um,
Well, actually, she beat her on the stone run. She
She
just
beat her
didn't
on
win
the
it.
stones. She got second overall on the stones by like 6 seconds because Camellia won. But I mean, absolutely impressive class. And I don't know about you, but on the prelim days on day two, the make or break was the sandbag medley, in my
Yeah,
opinion, for every single class. And what I know we're talking about the 64 women, but if you look at the spread, you go to all the classes like the 90s, the 80s, it
yeah, it
was
all dips
one, it
around
was
that medley.
it was 1 to 3 seconds could change your entire placing. I mean, it was taking guys from eighth to 16th, by 2 seconds. Um, I did like that. I did like that medley. I will say,
Yeah,
like
it's a fun one.
I like the push rather than the backwards pull for once, and I liked how you could tell athletes adapted very quickly with. I don't know if you noticed like the way they were all pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
It was like
It was like
90, yeah, it was like 98% versus like I anticipate everyone would push it like a prowler. And
yeah,
then people did that like wrap around and it seemed like every class pretty much adopted that. So I just thought that was interesting.
yeah. They hit it kind of like You ever seen like those dummy tackles they use for
Yeah,
football? It
that's
was like pretty
exactly
much the
what I
same
thought
emphasis.
about. Yeah. And then as you got to the bigger guys, you saw the sled start to lift off the ground like a
Mhm.
football sled. I don't know if you saw that, but
Yeah,
yeah, man, that was really cool. But you know, this class, like I said, really, really good balance of like athleticism, static strength.
conditioning. Yeah,
It's they're just so well rounded with static strength, but then doing yokes in under 20 seconds, the sandbag medley in 30 seconds, like
well, the
low.
sandbag medley, you see a big point spread too.
Yes.
Like there was like obviously no ties because it was timed, but like to have what like only half of the athletes get 6 bags, and
Yeah.
a 30-pound bag is pretty tough.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, they're throwing 30. They're throwing 30, and it's like that's at weighing 140. They're throwing two 30-pound bags. Yeah, it was impressive. I thought the wrecking ball hold was cool.
Hmm.
I just thought it was a snooze fest. I wonder if they'll bring it back in any regard. It was cool. I want to really have an athlete or two on here in the next couple weeks to talk about it, like their
Hmm.
whole experience. But I was very curious how,
The
like, I don't know
judging.
if you were when you were looking like the setup, like when your flight would walk up onto the platform,
Hmm.
and then like they were doing a lot of like it seemed like measuring with the chain and everything like that. I would be very curious what that all entailed.
It was mostly to make sure that when they drop that hydraulic system, that it would basically clear.
Yeah,
So they
but
couldn't
like
basically like have it just like
barely
touching.
touching.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
because some people were doing that in their training to get like longer holds, right?
yeah,
So they're not getting the full
like
brunt of weight.
yeah,
I mean,
really,
it. I'm not saying there was any weird judging to it, but to me, it seemed like some people bent their knees super early, and it said in the rules that they weren't supposed to do that. So
yeah. It's just it's like I mean, man, you're a promoter yourself and a really good one.
thank
Um,
you.
and well, that's what everyone tells me. So I mean, so you can relate on that, but it's like an event like a front hold that is
Hmm.
very, very tough to judge. As simple as an event it is, you
Hmm.
start to get that broken elbow, it's
The arms drop.
the arms drop, and it's like, where do we call it? It seemed like guys were just and girls were really gaming that animal wrecking ball hold to the point
Mhm.
like it was weird. But you did see some insane performances on that.
I will
Uh,
say though, it was consistent that they judged it on the drop, or if someone just kept rebending.
yeah,
So like if you see him go lower and lower, they're like, all right, you got to put it down. It's like
yeah,
pretty much touching it. So
yeah,
like that was cool that they were at least like keeping track of that, and it was like consistent in that sense.
yeah. I will say for that event, Hannah Cold Iron stole the show. I think she had like
Yeah,
130 seconds or something like that.
to
Um,
grip anything for more than 2 minutes is insane.
It's incredible. And there
Yeah.
was a couple guys and girls that did it. So, but no, I mean, for the 64 women, congrats to Crystal. I know, like I
Mhm.
said, I know her personally. That is so cool to see her like work her way up through this. And she's a freaking world champion. And I mean, congrats to all the girls in the class. That was a really stacked class. So, um, the 73 women was a little bit different as far as like the spread. It was very, very top heavy.
Mhm.
Um, I think obviously the main story going into the 73 women was Nancy
Yeah,
returning
that
like
was
the,
awesome.
the car yoke.
Mhm.
Um,
Getting her redemption on it. That was awesome.
yeah, that was very cool. And
She was like, "Yoke won, Nancy won." That was like the highlight of that day for me, at least on the yoke.
yeah, yeah, and I mean what was crazy is, she's so strong and impressive on that yoke
Mhm.
run, and I don't think she was top three on that event, if I remember correctly
Yeah,
for
she was
day
28
one.
seconds.
Yeah, so Erin, yeah, she got fourth on that event. So, uh,
I
or
mean,
wait,
Aaron was second place with a 14.9 second run.
yeah, and
Fastest time was Chloe Brennan with like
11 seconds.
11.48.
That
That's
just
insane.
that blows my mind. So that was definitely a takeaway for day one for the 73s was that run by Chloe. And then I think also kind of like Erin, the whole weekend kind of just she was just so consistent. And it
Yeah,
was
just
just
laziness. So yeah,
yeah. Um, so I
six
think
reps on the log.
yeah, yeah, it's crazy for them to match at 6 reps on it is so cool.
Mhm.
And I mean, Camellia again, we talked about her in the last one, and we already mentioned it, but she got fourth in this class. But she was just consistent the whole time. She got
Mhm.
she got fourth in the deadlift, uh fourth in the logs. Like she's just there the whole time.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, she was
um
hanging, especially after already doing a whole competition.
yeah, so she did 14 events. But I think who would you have picked going into this weekend? Would you have picked Aaron or Nancy? Who did you think was going to win?
I mean, that's it. It kind of depends on the events more than anything,
For sure.
and it's hard to say it after already seeing what happened.
Mhm.
But like since Aaron does more heavier shows, I would imagine Aaron will be a little more equipped for that. Kind of like, betting on Nadia Stowers would be like an easier bet in that sense, just because
Sure.
they've done more high level shows. Not taking anything away from Nancy because she's an amazing competitor nonetheless. And she's won the title before too, so it's not like she can't win it again.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So, no, I mean, this class, and I'm not throwing shade at any other
Pound
girls
for
because
pound, they're insane.
yeah, I mean, there's some really awesome girls. I just think sometimes like when your class is that top heavy, it almost
Mm-hmm.
takes away from it because those two were just so good all weekend. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we mentioned the point spread for the 64s was decided
Close.
by a 49.5, 49, 48, right? And then you go
Mm-hmm.
to the 73 women, 47.5 won, 42
Mm-hmm.
uh wait, sorry. 64.5 won, 61 got second, and then you drop all the way down to 42.5 for third.
Yeah, it was basically just Aaron and Nancy just like splitting points on first and second for the most
Yeah.
part.
Wait, so Camellia did get podium on both.
Yeah, she did. I'm
Oh,
looking at it now too.
I was I was looking at that wrong. Wow. So Camellia, how do you say her last name? Faganala, however you say it, the Australian. Two
I'm not gonna say I
podiums.
said it right either.
Two podiums in the open class. Holy cow.
And to get
So
all 6 stones on both runs too. That's
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 incredible.
pretty
She was just
awesome.
using the 64s as a warm up. But yeah, so I mean, main takeaways, Aaron Murray had a great weekend. Nancy came back and smashed the car yoke, which was really cool to see. Um, you
Do you
saw
think
some insane stuff.
do you think there's ever gonna be a man that does two OSG weight classes?
There's guys that are capable of it,
Mm-hmm.
I think. Now, I don't know. It makes it that's a really, really good question.
Because it seems like only the women have done it. Because like Claire
Yeah,
Myler's the first person to do it, right?
man, I'm trying to think. What a good question. I'm trying to think it would either have to be
CJ Kraus, maybe.
see yeah, Andrew Haynes,
Mm-hmm.
those are two that jumped right out to me. But like I could see like Josh Koleski for my
Mm-hmm.
class. Like I could see him doing 80s and 90s and doing well. Um, the problem is like when you go 80s and 90s right now, the 80s are just I mean the 90s are so I thought that was the most competitive class this weekend on the men's
Yeah,
side.
that it was anyone's game, like
Yeah.
per event.
Now,
it is, especially when you got to the wrecking ball hold and
yeah,
Tommy Rizzo was fighting for that first, and then he got
yeah.
that tie.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the 90s is the most well-rounded class. I
Mm-hmm.
think the days 1 and 2 we saw it. I think the 80s were the most 80s and 105s were the most competitive come day 2.
I agree.
I mean day 3 because Philip kind of ruined the 90s for the finals because he started to
It's too good
yeah, man. I mean, he won by over 10 points.
at 19 years old.
Yeah, and
That's
not,
just
we'll
like
get to
crazy.
that in a second. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but that was incredible. But man, that's a good question. I would love to see a guy do it. Um,
I guess
but
we're
yeah,
going
I
to
don't.
the wrecking ball hold, right?
Yeah, I don't. I don't have any other major takeaways with the 73s. Congrats to all the
I
girls. I
mean,
mean,
it's
there
a
was some
2 minute hold.
crazy performances. What's that?
Remember Aaron Murray with the 2 minute hold? She was like, "Do I have to keep holding it, or did I already win?"
Yeah, yeah. You look at it, a minute 22 on that hold. I mean, 122 seconds, not a minute 22.
Yeah, two
122
minutes,
seconds.
2 seconds.
Yeah. So insane. So I mean, congrats, Aaron Murray. You know, new world champ, and Nancy Johnson for making her comeback. Camellia podium in both. There was some other great performances, like we said, Chloe Brennan with that yoke. Um, Nicola. I don't know if it's Nicola or Nicola Ann Bennett, but I remember her deadlift was insane. Let me look at what it was. But yeah, she had 7 reps on the 470 axle deadlift.
Nice.
So insane. So congrats to those girls. And then the last weight class, women's class, was the 82s, which my main takeaway was I was expecting, I think everyone, and admittedly I don't follow this class too closely,
Mhm.
right? But was Nadia pulling? I thought Nadia would pull away with it, and then you
She
went.
had to fight for it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
to the most extreme sense. I mean, she pulled it off by 3 seconds on the stones. She was losing going into the last event. Um, so yeah, Nadia finished with 56 points. Um, Sabrina Retzer from Germany, 54 and a half, and then Claire with 46.
And she
So
did it with the torn Achilles, right?
yeah, that's one of the
That's like
main
the crazy part.
takeaways.
That's like
Yeah,
when Brian Shaw won World's Strongest Man with a torn hamstring. He still like pulled 900. I remember seeing that.
right. So yeah. So what's the other class that Claire's in?
Claire did 50 plus, and she did the
82.
82s,
Yeah.
and
So
that's her second time doing that double podium finish.
I remember because I think it was last year, right, that she did the
Yeah,
double. So that I mean that makes her podium that much cooler. So we already talked about, Camellia doing it, but Claire doing it 2 years in a row. So she's done 28 OSG events in 2 years. Isn't that
it's insane to
crazy?
think about.
28 events at OSG in 2 years. That's incredible. So
And
congrats to
finishing those
Claire.
stone runs too.
Yeah.
Like her CNS is something to be studied.
Yeah, I mean, that's mind blowing to think about. And literally doing it, you're basically walking back into the hallway, putting tacky on again, and then coming out. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? So, yeah. I mean, um, because I remember watching when they first started on the log, I was like, Nadia is gonna run away with this very
Mhm.
easily because she got 5 reps, and then I don't. And it did kind of shock me when Nadia on day two was doing the deadlift and she had 7 reps, and I don't think she had to do seven, but she just kept going because I
I think
think
that's probably where she buried herself a little bit, just overdoing it.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, so yeah, but Nadia won. There were some great performances. I mean, 7 reps on a 510 axle deadlift is insane by Nadia. But you
Yeah,
have
especially 180.
yeah, I mean Claire hitting 5 reps, and that's her other deadlift event, like we already mentioned.
Mhm.
Um, Nadia lost points in the sandbag medley, not getting a disc. She had to take a distance. She didn't get a time. So I think that's kind of where she made it interesting, you know.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, a lot on the finals came down that wrecking ball hold, and I mean, not to get too political, but it does seem like they did tell. I mean, you already kind of mentioned it, but kind of did say seem like in the rules and everything, they weren't going to allow like the extreme knee bend. They weren't going to allow it to be like kind of like ramped into yourself too
Mhm.
much. And it seemed like that is pretty much all we
Not
saw.
everyone
Yeah.
did. But at
Uh,
least everyone got away with it, so I guess it's
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, yeah. It's like if you start to allow it, you can't draw the line halfway through, and be like, yeah, well, now we're not going to allow it. So
Yeah, the volunteers did an awesome job with like
they did.
correcting that midway through because it's like, how do I stop this person in time? So it was like, okay, as long as you don't touch, then it's fine.
Yeah. The
And I think that
volunteers.
was fun.
As a promoter, but the volunteers did such an awesome job this weekend. It's just incredible to see.
Like
Like,
catching people passing out and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, there was a lot of that this year, man.
And
Um,
speaking of people passing out or like volunteers, Cole Bolton helps out at all of our local, well, not all of our local, but like all of our high level competitions. Like he was
yeah,
there at America's Strongest Man, helping out with setting up. He was at Amateur Nationals helping set up. He pretty much does the setup at whatever he's not competing in.
that's so cool. People like
Yeah,
that, man, they're just the best.
he
I
deserves
will
a shout
say,
out for it. I just figured I would say that now because he's helped out at like 6 different shows I've either seen a live stream to or been to.
yeah, but for the 82 women, congrats to Nadia, Sabrina
Mhm.
second, Claire, the double podium back to back years. Congrats. Um, and then going to the open women, uh,
That had a
Rebecca,
lot of crazy upsets.
yeah. I
Monica Seles.
Well, yeah, I I mean, I can't help but just root and love Rebecca Roberts. Like every
Hmm.
time she's on, I'm always cheering for her. She just seems like such a good person without knowing her, but like
Yeah,
so I mean, she won, but I mean, there was just some like it kind of seemed like if a girl like didn't do well on this event and then they came back on the next event and would like almost win that event. And it was like up and down, up and down. It was a pretty close class.
it was a
Especially
good
in the
fight.
it was really good. Like you look at that third place, the podium, the last spot on the podium, Jennifer Lau, she inched out by half a point by in front of
Hmm.
Katie Blunden. So um there was only like even but you look at the how competitive it was. Like Monica, who got seventh, she was one of only like 4 or 5 girls to get 5 stones.
And she
So
won
like
two events.
yeah, and she won 2 events. So it's like she won the wrecking ball hold, right?
Yeah, she won the wrecking ball hold. Oh, never mind. She didn't. I thought she won the car yoke, but that's right. Rebecca Roberts like destroyed that in like
Yeah,
11 seconds.
it was like on
So
it.
she was
I think she was in the
like a
lead
second
until
behind her.
then. Yeah,
So yeah, 12.68 seconds is what Monica hit
yeah.
for
And then
second.
you
That's
just look at these
crazy.
times like Rebecca's car yoke,
700.
11 seconds for the car
Mm-hmm.
yoke. Their deadlift 550 for reps, and you had Cherry from Zambia. She hit 7. Just incredible. Rebecca hitting 6, Jennifer hitting 6. Like
And there was a
the
lot of
level.
people that didn't use a suit either.
Yeah, it was weird. Which
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're not used to a suit, I do think a suit will actually kind of hurt you if you're not, if you are a good enough deadlifter to go in and get a rep. I think you saw a lot of first time suitors or
Mm-hmm.
more be,
You
because
see
that
people flip and roll.
well, yeah, because so many people wanted to and so many people wanted to go for that Trump deadlift
Mhm.
because that got you in so much more of the money because
Yeah.
it was a heavier deadlift. Um, Uh yeah, so a lot of first time suitors, but congrats in the open women, Rebecca Roberts, world champ again.
Mhm.
I mean, I can't help but root for her. So, but before we start the men, I want to talk about a couple things just with OSG this year, like kind of a little halftime. But one thing I loved this year was, and I'm very envious that we didn't have last year, is the time frames. Like, 64 and 80 men went, 64 women and 80 men went
Mhm.
at this time. Because I think about it, like last year,
You're like at the edge of your seat waiting to go.
well, yeah, you're at the arena before 9 a.m. and then you don't do your last event. Even me as an 80, I'm not doing my last event till at least 4 p.m.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
can't. Well, the heavyweights had it really hard this year because I mean it's what 8:30 right now, and they just finished 15 minutes ago.
yeah,
So yeah, it's that doesn't sound like an easy day for them, especially not having the best conditioning compared to the other classes.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I just, I like that the athletes don't have to be there the whole time. I,
Hmm.
I think the stream, and this is me being nitpicky, but the only thing I hated about the stream, and I'd be curious your opinion on this, I just thought they were trying to do too much with the camera switches. I mean, I almost felt like I was gonna have a seizure with like how the camera was switching so much, and I think they were just trying to get too cute with it, which I understand they're doing a great job and they're trying to
Right,
step up. But like how many performances I missed watching from home
because
because
it
they were
switched.
just the switch was just crazy.
Hmm.
Sometimes like in my opinion, simple is better, where you just have that eagle eye view of like all four competitors, and then like whenever something happens, then you can go to the ground level. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what drones are for, especially when you're
Yeah.
putting that kind of money into it. But not to take anyone's camera job away by any means,
No, no, I mean they did an amazing
because
job.
the videographers did do a really good job. It's just there was a point where the camera literally could not keep up with some people on the yoke, and I don't blame them.
Yeah.
Like Kai ran so fast on going back to teens. Kai ran so fast on his yoke, he actually overran it by I think 10 to 15 feet because it slid so
Oh,
hard.
oh, really?
Yeah, and there's a few other people that had a similar issue with that in teens, and I think they were moving so fast that they couldn't stay in frame, so they had to keep switching the cameras. And I mean, there was some people on the car yoke where they're moving so fast, they're like, "Oh, and we're here now."
Yeah.
A little bit on the stone runs, not as much, but I think like obviously the static events, it was an easy time like with the camera angles.
Yeah. I would be curious to hear from competitors, and I'm sure we will, like how the new arena was. Like
Hmm.
how I've heard from a couple people, that we had competing, but I'll be curious to hear like, accommodations, stuff like that. I
Well, I
want be
hope so with all they paid.
Yeah. I'll be for sure. I'll be curious where OSU will be next year. Like changing to a new city again, I hope. I like
Mhm.
the idea of being in a new area every year, but who knows? Will it be maybe the year they go overseas? Uh,
I
who
mean, it would be
knows?
cool if they did. I mean, it seems like a lot of Australian people are coming in, a lot of
That would be
Canadians. You
crazy.
know,
I don't think they'll do Australia, but that would be crazy if they did. The
I
Australians would freaking, I'm sure, love that stuff because their travel has to be insane.
I would imagine the amount of Australian competitors would go up by like triple. So I guess
Oh
it
my
depends on
God.
what country you want to go to too, and what's easier to
Yeah.
have.
I would
Like,
imagine if they're gonna
like
go over,
imagine
they're
in
gonna do.
Mexico, that would be
Yeah.
easy too, or anywhere in South America,
I'm
like Brazil.
imagining if they go overseas, it's gonna be UK just
Mhm.
because of the base.
The
And you
money,
look at,
yeah,
yeah, you look at how many competitors already are coming from that area. But
and it's close to a lot of other spots in Europe too,
for
so
sure.
it makes sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, I kind of almost, I mean, selfishly, I love it in US,
Oh,
but,
me too.
like, I do,
Especially when my clients are going.
yeah, I do see the argument for it being somewhere else, you know, because it is
But I
World's
think they have
Strongest Man.
to.
Yeah,
If they wanted to continue being an international comp, it shouldn't just be in America. And that's like
I
me saying as an American.
I agree. I agree. But going to the men's side of things, the class I follow the most, I don't think I missed a single
Hmm.
inch of a event or a second or anything was the 80s. Um, I- we talked about it quickly, but the finals was the most that or the 105s, but probably the 80s came down the closest because you had three guys going into stones that were tied at 45 and a half points.
Hmm.
Um, I will say, I think one thing I do notice with the 80s in my class is that sometimes I think like there are some huge cuts, and I think
Hmm.
you see that like day one significant like affect people, like
It affected
especially the
people day
log.
three for sure,
Yeah. Like
especially
I
on the
mean
grip.
like you start on the log and like that's coming off a cut, I always feel that overhead suffers the worst. And I think there were some like guys you see like perform, a
I mean, it
little
depends
under
on
what
your
they would.
cut too.
Yeah.
You guys have the craziest cut because I've heard of 80 kilo guys losing like 20, 25 pounds sometimes. And
Yeah, I
I don't
think
know how
there's
you guys do that.
yeah, I mean, I'm on the light side-ish. Like I walk around at 190 and make
Hmm.
80 pretty easily, but I know there's guys that are much, much
205
heavier than
plus.
me.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
Ben Gonin for a while was in 80s, right?
yeah. Yeah, he had some weight cut controversy, but I won't get into that.
I've
But
heard.
but yeah. But no, I mean, the one thing like I will say that I thought was super weird the whole weekend was Chris Harper was the returning champ, and they never mentioned him as the returning champ.
I feel like they needed more stats on the smaller classes, unfortunately.
Yeah, it
Like,
was.
because some of the women, like, once again, it's like they have several records and no one's talking about it, or they won, Americas, or they won something and they
Yeah,
don't talk about it. It's like that's something to bring up.
yeah. I don't know if Chris pissed someone off or what, but he won last year, and so there's never been a two-time champion, and there
Yeah,
still has not been a two-time champion because
yeah, we got the new champ.
Dylan Thompson, new champ again. Um, I, I mean, I like so many of these guys, and there were so many great performances. I have so many friends in the prelims and the finals, but man, it was so fun to watch all weekend. I could probably do an episode on this myself, the talking about the whole weekend. But
That's fun to
it,
watch.
yeah, it came down to Dylan, Tommy, and Josh on the Stones.
Mhm.
Dylan won. Tommy got second and Josh ended in third total. And like I said, it was, I think, 45 and a half points going in the Stones. Dylan ends up with 55 and a half, Tommy 52 and a half, and Josh 50 and a half. Chris Harper missed the podium by half a point, by
Mhm.
1 point. after winning last year. Mason Cup is a huge takeaway for me. He's a natural athlete,
Mhm.
and I don't know if other athletes are natural or not. They all might be natural for all I know, to be honest. I just
Right.
Mason Cup won natural worlds this year, and then comes and does OSG, so I know he's a natty. So
Right.
that was pretty cool. And he had some insane performances. He had the wrecking ball hold that was 144 seconds.
Mhm. Was
Like,
there any people that you expected to go to the final that didn't make it? Because I remember we talked about this a little bit off camera about the 80s, like having like some upsets along with the 90s
yeah,
as well.
I think the 90s had the most upsets.
Hmm.
Um, I was surprised of some guys that I was surprised by, like Jonas from
Hmm.
Switzerland. I competed with him last year. He just missed out on the finals last year, so I'm I'm really happy for him. Um, I mean, not really. I mean, and I'm not saying that in like a hater way. I mean, there's just so many guys that could have made it that didn't.
Right.
And it was just it came down to that the little details like the
And just
sandbag.
not making mistakes.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was if you look let me pull up like the sandbag medley for the weekend. Like you start to look, I mean, you got like so much bunched up in that like
Hmm.
upper 30 to 40 seconds where it's like, for like Cody Abel, someone that's definitely very capable of making another finals because he has made
Right.
one. It's like he got 39 seconds, but then there's a guy with 38 and a half, 39.09, like it's just that little stuff like that that just barely it makes all the difference. It's so crazy. Um, and like it is just so impressive. But
Well, that and there's been like a lot of, it's a good thing, but there's been a lot more pro shows for 80s now that are paid.
yeah, for
So
sure.
like I think that was a big issue for some people too, because you had America's Strongest Man literally a month right before.
Yeah, which sucked. I mean, I'm happy I did ASM because I wasn't doing OSG regardless, but it does stink, that guys have
Hmm.
to make the decision to do one or the other. But I completely understand it. But
Hmm.
I would love to see it, America's Strongest Man with like all these guys because you have Josh, Tommy, Dylan, Mason Cup, Cody. The
And the
list goes
podium
on.
was all American too.
Yeah, yep. Podium for this was all American. So. Sorry, I keep switching back between my finals and my prelim.
Oh, you're all good.
But but yeah, I mean, I know I'm biased to the 80s, but it is so crazy to me when you start looking and you have guys that are 100 weighed in at 175 pounds and they're pressing a 280 log for clean and press each
Mhm.
rep. The axle deadlift is 640 and guys are getting 5 reps. That was one huge thing for me. Like Josh Koleski coming out and getting 5 reps on that. I thought that was a huge event for him. Richard Molnar, who has the world record in our class, um, he came out and stole the show
And
on
rep.
deadlift. I think for the whole weekend he was, and I don't know if you saw him do his 10 reps, but it was
They
very,
were
very.
easy.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. I mean,
He could have
it
done
literally
more.
looked like an RP 7 or 8 set. So,
Hmm.
I mean, he had different, um,
I
you know,
guess he wished it was a ladder or a max at that point, right? It would have just been done faster.
yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's the 80s. Finley Mercer again making a finals after last year. Um,
One thing I do want to say about the 80s, though, is you guys averaged the fastest time out of all the yoke runs.
oh, really?
I think so.
That's
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah, that
there
makes
was the
sense.
most like sub 15-second yokes in that class alone.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It's crazy. I mean, yeah, that's incredible. I'm just looking at the point spread right there. That might be the difference, right there. Just those couple seconds too. I mean,
It's crazy how fast 80-kilo guys are, and I don't think people will talk about it enough. Like obviously everybody brings it up because you do have the fastest people in your class for sure, but the fact that they're that much faster than most people is insane.
right. Yeah, I'm in awe right now just looking over some of these things that I didn't even, it's just crazy. What was the fastest yoke time of the weekend? Was it Josh's 10 seconds or did someone beat that?
I think it was Philip. He did it 9
Oh,
9.01.
really? Did he?
Yeah,
Wow. Well, I guess that's a good segue to go into the 90s. Yeah, 9.01 seconds. My God.
that should be a world record, right?
I yeah, I mean it's a hard thing to measure, but yeah. I mean, man, if they one thing I'll say, like if watching OSG, if you're a competitor and watching OSG doesn't get you fired up, like I don't know what will. Like I know like just the whole weekend I'm just so glued to my
Makes you
screen
want to
and
go compete.
yeah, it's crazy. You truly have like that FOMO of just not being there and it just is whatever you think of OSG, whatever your opinions are, trust me, I have opinions on different things. Um, but whatever they are, it is the pinnacle. And I will, like it's the pinnacle. It's World's Strongest Man. It's the title. So yeah. So going on to the 90s, when I say it's the most competitive class of the weekend, I think it's the most competitive class as far as like the whole spread of athletes in the prelim. Where you had, I
Just
mean,
the finals, yeah. To
let
get to
me
the that is.
Yeah, to get to day three, I think was the hardest class. Um, it was. Let me look here. Also, what do you think about the reorder? Like, what do you think about the reorder of events? Like, you have your score, and then you go to the finals, and everyone's place changes and everything. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it can help in case someone had an advantage in events, but I mean, everyone already knows the finals events ahead of time, so I guess it doesn't. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
it's one of those things where if you're a posterior chain like dominant person, you're gonna be okay anyways because it's strongman.
yeah. But
When you
no,
really get
no, no.
loaded, you're
I
gonna
oh,
be
I see
wrong.
what you're saying. But what I'm saying is the reorder of like have you ever seen like the
With the
point
points.
system? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know another way to do it. I'm just curious.
Well,
It's
if someone's like super dominant day 1 and 2, then how would you fix that to make it like have a better fight for like second,
yeah,
third, or first?
yeah. No, I get it. I
I
get it.
mean, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it's at that point, it's like why have a at that point you might as well do prelim rounds where you change the points every single day.
Yeah.
Where you get rid of like say 3, 4 people each day, and that would actually probably speed it up. That might be something they do in the future, maybe.
I mean, the only thing that took away from this class was how dominant Philip was.
Oh yeah.
Truly. I mean, you look at the final score, Philip, 53 and a half points. Congrats to Andrew Haynes, getting
Mhm.
second place on the podium, 43. And then Tyler Davis, he's a champion. Previously, I think 22. Um, getting third place there. And Jake Allen just missing. You just look at that top
There's a
five.
lot of new names on there too for the
Oh,
top 10.
crazy. John Hack was a big story coming in.
Mhm.
Um, you
Like
mentioned that is it Hutchinson that just got his
yeah, he
pro
did
card?
amateur nationals. He just
Wow.
got his pro card. He just won it. Like he's basically been doing comps back to back when you think about it. So if he was maybe like a little more fresh and he didn't do amateur nationals, he might have done even better. Because
Yeah.
like it seemed like a lot of it was him being gassed out for stones. Because like the first few went up really easy and then he just sputtered out.
Yeah. So I mean, man, Philip, when it comes to the whole show, Philip stole it. He had the 144
Mhm.
second wrecking ball. Um, he won the stones, I believe, right? Oh no, he got second on the stones, lost by a second.
Mhm.
But did what he had to. Tyler Davis had an incredible run there.
That was
Uh,
so fast.
but man, like John Hack was obviously a big story, like doing OSG,
Mhm.
because he has that, the amazing pedigree with powerlifting. But
Mhm.
but like you get inside the top 20 in this class and you jumble these names up any which way, I believe you.
Yeah.
Like John Tibbs is someone who's from around where I'm from. He got 18th, but he ended up getting, I think, he got a two top threes. He got a he got third on the deadlift, and then or no, I'm sorry, I'm looking at these backwards. I hate these spreadsheets so much. He
Right,
got
because you're reading them upside down.
yeah,
Yeah.
he got third on the log, and
Mhm.
like. his first OSG, comes out and gets a third overall on an event. But then you have guys like Andrew Pepio won ASM last year. Josh Lancaster won the Chaos Classic and he didn't make the finals. I thought he was going to make the finals. You have Nikolai Myers, who's a previous champ.
Yeah, he's the goat.
He
He's the
got
goat of the
13th.
90s.
Derek
Hmm.
Owens last year, like made the finals, got the 11th, like the whole conspiracy thing, but then showed up on day three. I think Derek was a big example of um, why maybe the four events is kind of flawed because Derek got in last year
Hmm.
in the 11th and it ended up in third overall. So, but anyway, Derek obviously coming off a podium last year, um, you know, uh, not even making the finals, getting 12th. CJ Kraus.
Yeah, another big
He,
name.
oh
He
no,
won
I'm sorry.
chaos. Yeah,
I said Josh won the chaos. Josh got
he was the
second,
top
didn't he?
three. Yeah.
Yeah, Josh got second, I believe. But CJ won the chaos classic. Um, obviously such an incredible athlete. Um, so it was just, I think that one really, really. Lee Shaw was someone I wasn't super familiar with, but he was really good. Um, there's just so many people the way you flip that around. And then you go to the finals and like John Hack was in second after first 2 days going to the finals, and then he ended up all the way back in sixth.
Yeah, the wrecking
That's
ball I think got him the most because he doesn't like work those kind of muscle fibers much.
yeah.
At least not when it comes to the grip.
So
But
I mean,
I think once he cleans up his technique and his log, I think he'll probably be like everything he needs to be
yeah,
because he
I'll be
definitely has the strength to press 400. He just doesn't have the technique yet.
yeah, I'll be curious what he wants to do with strongman. Like I don't never talk to John. I don't like
I feel
does
like there's
he
more money in it because like powerlifting, what like the don't quote me on this, but like what the best payout is what Ghost Clash.
Yeah, I just think there's like little opportunities that come up, but I don't know that answer. I don't know.
Because I feel like Chaos Classic, America's Strongest Man would pay you out more than 3 powerlifting meets would. I did the math at one point, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, you actually make more money doing strongman because you can compete more often without like killing yourself
Yeah. Yeah, I'd
because
be
you can
curious.
only
I mean,
max more time.
but then again, John Hack can probably show up to a powerlifting meet like that and
And not
win.
max. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I would just be curious where his head's at as far as like, did he like this weekend? Like, does he love strongman? Like, does he want to do like win an OSG, Or did he do it this year because he's a freak and one of
Yeah.
the best ever and it's in his hometown? You
Right.
know,
Well,
like
the other thing about that too is what else does he have left to do in powerlifting other than wear equipment and just destroy everyone in that?
yeah, his come up in powerlifting is like truly inspiring because like he was a full natural athlete and
Hmm.
had all the records in USAPL and then went on the other side of things and still won everything and like his total's so impressive. So yeah, maybe he does want to be full-time strongman. I'm just curious. So
I think right now he's kind of switching back and forth because I follow his YouTube channel and it seems like he kind of just just does the strongman comps for fun. Like he didn't fully peak it. Like obviously Laz is coaching him and stuff, but I don't think he had a full like 16-week prep for that.
yeah.
And it shows a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. There's little things that show like him loading stones, like his positioning
It's
gets
very
weird.
blocky.
Yeah, but it's like
Same thing with the
it
log,
just
like the elbow positioning being like down here. And I was like, how you're basically strict pressing the log. It's
it's
crazy. Like
incredible.
he didn't get to use his lats because he didn't bring his elbows up like all that high.
And it's
He
it
pressed
just
like a heavyweight.
it just puts into perspective how big of a freak John Hack is. Like there's
Yeah.
really levels to like that elite strength athlete that John Hack is.
Yeah.
So
And there's definitely some events where like it doesn't really matter if you have the technique, if you have the brute strength.
yeah. Yeah, I mean he showed it. So I mean John Hack, what? He's been on the did he did he do another OSG? Am I remembering that right?
He did the Chaos Classic.
I know he did the Chaos Classic, but I think he was signed up for an OSG and then didn't do it.
He got invited.
Yeah.
I remember him talking about that in an interview before.
So yeah, and then the Chaos Classic he got second, right? He lost a tiebreaker to Nick O'Hare.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, I don't want to take away, from other like Philip. stole the show. I think I've said that a million times now.
At
Andrew
19.
Hanus. Andrew Hanus is now podiumed in the 80s and the 90s. And he's incredible. His
He's a unit.
sandbag toss. He's a good person. It's awesome. That class just, man, they were really fun to watch. Um, so was the 105s.
Mm-hmm.
And the 105s, it came down to my coach is Nick Hine,
Mm-hmm.
and I know
You wanted him
Alec.
to win.
Yeah, I know. My heart's out there for Nick, but I mean, still second place in the entire world for Nick
That's
is
awesome.
incredible. Um, so I do think he still will win in OSG. I really do. I think his
Yeah, he's
times.
definitely got it in the books at some point.
Alec Sokup, who's been on this podcast as
Mm-hmm.
well, is a great person. I actually get to train with him when I go to Oklahoma for work.
Nice.
So him and his brother Seth, who we'll talk about in the open, but was there anyone? I'm trying to think. Looking at the 105 for the prelim, if there's
I was
anyone that,
surprised didn't make it. Johnny
yeah.
Olivo. I was expecting him to make the final, but he
Oh
just
yeah, he,
he hurt his hamstring in training, and I think that's what like messed up his prep into OSG.
yeah,
He
for
was coming
sure.
back pretty good, but I don't think he had enough time to recover.
That's a good one for sure. Luke Davis almost snuck in, and I was rooting for Luke because I know him and he's a good person.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, he win the deadlift in that
I'd have to
class?
double check the
No,
file.
Chris did, of course.
Okay.
That's who I was going to talk about next.
Otero. Yeah.
Yeah. So Christopher Otero, um, he's someone I've just got to meet. I know he's listened to this podcast before. We've talked about it, but man, he's probably other than like the winners and the podium. I think Chris is like the takeaway from this class.
Hmm.
Because he just still isn't that well known of a person, although he should be. 7 reps on the axle with 750. Um, he had he had
Really
another,
fast yoke run too.
yes, really
11:69.
exactly.
Yeah, he
And
won
then
it.
and then he finished 5 stones. Um, and what was the other one?
Looks like
Didn't
he
he?
won the wrecking ball hold too.
Yes, yeah, that was it. That was my other note. He won the wrecking ball hold at 132. So man, congratulations to him. Stephen Bradley had a hell of a time.
It seems like he just had a lot of peaks and valleys because
Yeah,
like the log he gets one rep on the light one, and obviously it makes sense being an amazing deadlifter.
yeah. But man, he did what he had to do to get in the finals. Like, congratulations to
Absolutely,
him.
that's a
That's
good placing
insane.
too.
Yeah.
To
So
be in the top 10 at all, like
it's
in
yeah,
anything.
it's crazy. Um, yeah, we've had I'm looking at now, we've had 5 of the top 10 on this podcast, which is pretty cool for the 105s.
That's really
So
cool.
yeah. Stephen Bradley was another one that was like had an awesome weekend because they were, so to paint the picture going into stones, they were 42 and a half, 42 and a half, and then 41 and a half for the podium. So it was pretty much a control your own destiny type situation. We had a couple of those this weekend on different classes. It makes it so
Mhm.
fun when it goes down to the last event, you know? Like,
Yeah, we have to battle it out.
yeah. Kind of sucks when like the winner's up 9 points and like only has to load 1 stone. It's just anticlimactic. So
It's like a Hooper victory.
yeah, yeah, seriously. Um, but yeah, I mean, uh, shout out to that podium, Alec and Nick. I really like both those guys, and it was some awesome performances. Matt McKeegan's bag toss. I don't know if anyone was watching during that, but 17 seconds, he got all 6 bags, and it was like incredible.
Do you think
Um,
bags are going to be the standard at OSG at this point?
Yeah, that's one gripe I have about OSG is that the like yeah, this year they did the Wrecking Ball hold, which was a new event, but the variance of events isn't crazy different. Like it seems like it's like a sandbag toss and a stone on the I would love for it to just always be different. Like
Yeah.
always because that's the one unique thing about strongman is just changing events can change the outcome so much. You have 7 different events this weekend. We could have literally 50 different people on the podium. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so the more vari like variants you add, the happier I'd be with
Do you
OSG.
think they'd ever do two pressing events,
They
like one on
have
prelims
before.
and one on finals?
They have before. Um, I think they did a log or an axle, and then they did a circus dumbbell in the finals, I believe. I think
Okay.
so. Or maybe their way around. Or maybe a Viking in a circus, I think.
I think when they have Viking, they do another press. That's right.
Yeah. Which I'm against two
But
presses, but that's just me. And I'm a
I
shittier.
like Preston. I got little T
Yeah.
Rex arms.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the men's open, which I admittedly know the least about out of the men's opens classes, but it was such a fun group. Um,
Tim Buck, that man just like came with a vengeance. Like I think
yeah,
America's Strongest Man gave him all the fire he needed to like be in contention.
yeah. Um, yeah, it was it's a crazy, crazy group of guys.
Do you think they'll
Um,
just invite the whole podium anyway, since it's up to their discretion?
I think they should, and I think they will. Um,
Because I
I
mean,
think
Spencer Remick was eighth. Like he got beat out by a bunch of guys.
right. I think yeah, I think they will. I think it also depends on like injuries and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I mean, like Josh Spurgeon, he ended up what in like ninth, but he actually won our regional last year or two
And the
years
Shaw
ago.
Classic.
Yeah, and he won the Shaw Classic. Seth Sokup is one of my favorites to watch, and
Mm-hmm.
he's a great kid. He's only 26,
He's a good
and
mover.
great mover. I mean, he's a great strong man. But I think Seth in the next couple of years will podium at OSG, for sure. But Nick Guardione was the big winner. So he won
Mm-hmm.
the Arnold. He won the Arnold and the OSG, and then Josh won the Shaw. So they were kind of like, and I think Josh got second at the Arnold when Nick won the Arnold. So yeah, Nick's got a very good
He's
good
very
thing
consistent.
coming. Yeah. So I mean, it was that class too. I mean, look at the podium 48, 46 and a half, 46 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Like incredible. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how much more I can talk about it. I watched it all damn weekend. I'm ready to sleep,
I don't
honestly.
blame you. It was a long comp.
Yeah, it was long. The finals ran a lot longer than I thought it would.
What do you think they're going to do to be a little more time efficient to keep people involved with watching?
I don't know. I don't know. That's a really good question. Um, one thing I think with OSG is to invite a lot less people. And
I agree.
that's my opinion. Now
Just have like the top 15.
yeah, I mean, I'm a guy that might not get invited now because, I might not be able to earn an invite, but I think if you get it to 20 per class and then maybe like 25 for the open men, I think it goes and maybe like classes that are a lot less represented, like a men's masters 50, just have 10 and have 10
Mm-hmm.
spots, instead of having like 17 and you're, whatever. That's what I would do. I would have 20 guys and girls for each class.
Well, the only issue I see coming out of that for them financially would be now they can't run their regional, right? Which is
Yep.
where most of the money comes from to fund
Yeah, and
OSG.
you're cutting the entire field of OSG in half, which is, $300 dollar entry plus, coaches passes plus people buying merchandise plus hotel rooms that, So, I mean, this is strictly me from the peanut gallery, but if you're going to look at it from a viewer standpoint, that's what I would do.
Right. That or make more of an actual like prelim. So like maybe make the regional to be a prelim for OSG again, like almost kind
Yeah.
of like a national
Yeah.
level for it, and then whoever wins the national level goes to OSG to
Yeah, well,
represent
like
or whatever.
you see it over with Europe's.
Yeah.
Like I know for my class, like Europe's is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I don't know. That's a really good question though. I'll be curious. We'll probably talk about it more in depth next week too.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we're definitely gonna be the first recap show out and posted, I think, because we're doing it this night of.
Yeah.
I'll be curious what people thought. Like, I mean, obviously, no offense. Like, if we missed a big standout performance, like, I mean, there were just so many. You have the best athletes in
And
the
there was a
world.
lot that weren't even highlighted either, which made me a little upset too. Because like obviously I screen recorded it because like, oh nice, my guy hit 280. He was about to hit it for two, and last time I checked, I wasn't sure if that was a junior record or not. So like,
Yeah.
and then obviously they had what Thomas Bjorvik. He's a 175 for teens, but he went up a weight class basically to 231s, and he put
That's
up what was it 260.
that's
Like he could have
incredible.
went into open based off his numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets more and more competitive every single year, and that's without a doubt. So, yeah, man. I appreciate you coming on doing a recap show with me.
I appreciate you inviting
We'll
me.
have to have you on for just like a full on episode here shortly because you're a coach, you're a promoter, you know. Just make sure you guys are following Cosme on Instagram, and I don't know how to say your Instagram name.
It's
Uh,
Triforce Cause.
okay, I didn't want to butcher it, but yeah. So
It's all
Dante will
good.
have the name up, Triforce Cause. Make sure you guys are following him. Um, like I said he's a promoter, coach, athlete. So yeah, I got to meet you in Florida this year, which was awesome because you know you talk to your friends online all the time in
Yeah,
strongman.
and you told Rocky to come down to U80s.
Yeah,
You're honestly the guy who made U80s America's like as big as it was because half of them didn't know they were invited.
yeah. Well, I appreciate that, man. Hopefully we can keep
You
growing it.
deserve it.
Well,
You seriously deserve the recognition for that because it's it's not something people talk about enough.
I appreciate it, man. But
Mm-hmm.
well, thanks everyone for listening. We have our show this upcoming Saturday, our winter show. Don't isn't yours this weekend too?
Mine is February 22nd. It's
Oh, February
Newcastle
22nd.
Chaos. It's a cash prize show for anyone who does open.
Oh, cool. So we will have probably our little Polar Express recap show. We'll touch on some more OSG stuff. I want to get Frawley on here because, you know, he competed
Mhm.
his first OSG in an open, which I'm so proud of him. And, you know, we had Jerry and Sam from the gym as well. So we'll go over some more stuff. But yeah, this is the 580 show OSG recap for 2024. Cosme, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
See you guys.